What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. And as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts. So be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. I don't think you can help me, miss. I need to speak to a man in your department. Any woman who has ever worked in a call center has had this customer. The guys at call centers know these people exist, but for obvious reasons are never on the receiving end of their bullcrap. There's usually not much a girl can do to deal with them, and usually we don't have the time or inclination to argue with them. Some mean old woman calls in wanting something simple, but she is convinced my tiny lady brain can't handle it. I don't know why, but women seem as likely to pull this crap as men in my experience. This woman asks to speak to one of my male colleagues instead. Now normally, this is where you explain politely yet condescendingly that about 70% of your average call center employees are women, and that we don't index our phone lines by the contents of our employees' underpants. So while we can transfer them back to the queue to try a different rep, they'll have to wait in line again and may or may not get someone who can sign their name in the snow with a stream of urine. Most of the time, they reluctantly accept the fact that they have to deal with a woman this time. This woman didn't, so I sent her back into the queue to try her luck again. About 30 minutes later, I get her again. "Thank you for calling, my name is OP, how may I help you today?" She didn't recognize me at first and angrily gave me her name and a complaint about being put on hold by the last woman. I recognized her name and crappy demeanor immediately. So in my best bitchy polite customer service voice said, "Oh yes, Miss Cuttington, I believe I was the one who spoke to you earlier. I'm sorry you weren't able to be connected to someone more to your liking, but I'll do my best to help you." At this point, she lets out a disgruntled sigh and demands to speak to a man, now. It's at this point I should mention I'm a transgender woman. My phone voice is impeccably femme, thanks to years of phone practice, but I can still drop into my old gravelly baritone pretty easily. In fact, I do the voice change up mid-sentence all the time when I'm telling jokes or stories with my friends, 'cause it's funny. So without missing a beat, I say, "Thank you for calling, my name is OP, how may I help you today?" She paused for a moment, befuddled. "You're the same person," she exclaims with the same accusatory tone that J. Jonah Jameson would use if he figured out Peter Parker was Spider-Man. "Yes, but you wanted to talk to a man." You can hear the gear in her brain grinding to a halt for a moment, then angrily, "What are you, some sort of tranny?" To which I reply cheerfully, like she just noticed my new haircut. "Why yes, how did you know?" To that she just yelled, "You," and hung up. Too young to be disabled. So I am 38 female. This had happened loads of times to me, but this is the one that annoyed me the most. I was about 31 and I was on my way to my doctor's appointment, so I drove myself there like normal and parked in the designated disabled space at the end of the street. I have a disabled badge and a disabled parking disc. This is clearly on display on my dashboard for any parking wardens that may come by. All of a sudden, a car pulls up behind me and pulls really close to my bumper. This made me worry about getting out after my appointment, especially since there are no spaces behind the one I was in. The next thing I know, there's a loud, frantic tapping on my window. This gives me a small heart attack because it was literally like something from a horror movie. Outside my window was an elderly woman who looked to be in her 70s. She was knocking on my window non-stop. I rolled down my window to see what she was needing, and before I even got a chance to open my mouth, she starts yelling at me. "How dare you park in this spot? This is a disabled spot. My husband needs this spot for his doctor's appointment, so you need to move now. It's absolutely disgusting that young people these days have no respect for anything." I looked at her for a moment, completely dumbfounded, and because I didn't say anything for a second, she started on a tirade for the second time. This time I stopped her and I said that I also needed the space. I am disabled. If she looked at my dashboard, she would see my disabled badge. This seemed to send her off the deep end. "That's not your badge. You must have stolen that badge. You are too young to be disabled." Something in me snapped at that point. I took my badge off the dash and showed her my picture on the back. I then told her to step back from my door. Now, I can kinda walk on crutches on a good day, but on my bad days I have to rely on my wheelchair. On the seat beside me I had both in case I needed them. It was one of my better days, so I could have used the crutches, but this lady had really pissed me off at this time. So I may have exaggerated every single movement of getting the chair out of the car and assembled, and I may have made some extra pain noises transferring from the car to the chair. It always hurts me because of my conditions, but I may have put some extra flair to be an asshole. This lady watched me in horror the whole time. She didn't offer to help. To be honest, she seemed so horrified I doubt she could have if she wanted to. So I closed the car door and looked her dead in the eyes and went, "Am I disabled enough for you?" Her face was white. Any color was completely gone. Before wheeling myself away, I told her she should be ashamed of herself. She was the one with no manners and respect. It doesn't matter how old you are. Disability doesn't discriminate, unlike you just did. On that note, she scurried back to her car as fast as she could, promptly reversed from the back of my car and drove off rather hurriedly. As I said, this had happened a lot in my life, even as recently as last month, but this was the one that I couldn't keep my emotions in check. My wife abandoned my girls when she thought there was a home invasion. I'm a 34-year-old male. My wife, 42, is a stay-at-home mom. Last week when I was at work and my two oldest were at school, 5 male and 3 male, my wife was sitting at the dining room table when she saw a man walking down the driveway and going to the front door. He had what she thought was a hammer. She went to the front door and the guy was trying to get in. The guy saw her and waved and tried to get in. She fled the house and ran out the back door. She left her cell phone and Apple Watch. She also left our twin girls, 8 months old. They were sleeping in their cribs. She ran through the neighborhood looking for someone to help her call police. Eventually she found someone and they called the police. The police responded and cleared the house. Turns out it was a repair guy who was supposed to go to our neighbor's house and had been told that no one would be home and to just come in. She is mad at me for not being more supportive of her. I was stunned when she told me and was surprised when she said she left the girls. She is always yelling at me about how I don't do enough for the kids, unlike her who sacrifices constantly. I don't think that is accurate, but it is beside the point. We have been having major issues in our marriage for a long time apart from this. She is acting like this is one of the most traumatic events of her life, which is making me madder and madder. I am having a real hard time putting this one behind me. If this guy had been a bad guy, she would have abandoned our girls to him, all so she could save herself. Our house isn't that big, and people in the neighborhood and online know we have 2 little girls. I honestly don't know what to do. Edit. This happened about a week ago. I spent about an hour on the phone with her that day trying to console her. I tried again that night and have been trying to take care of the kids and do all the chores at home. She has been focusing on what I think is a work-from-home job, but that she is lying to me about and trying to hide from me. Other than that, she is going out with her friends to bars. She does not believe in therapy and is refusing to go to marriage counseling that I set up for us online after the kids go to sleep. A big issue I am having is the double standard that if I had done this, she would have never forgiven me and probably divorced me. We had a fight because when we moved to a new house, my side of the bed was on the far side from the door, and that I needed to be able to stop and attack her. I have been yelled at for abandoning my daughters when I take a shower in the morning before work and they begin crying, or if she is sleeping in and one begins crying while I'm changing the other's diaper and it takes me a minute to finish. I totally understand this is fight or flight, and I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback. I have not critiqued, let alone criticized her. The closest was when I was surprised when she told me she left the girls. Other than that call or when I came home and she was annoyed that we don't have security cameras, we haven't really talked about it. Second edit. She has a phone that worked. I texted her to check in and she told me to call her, and that's when I found out about this. When the kids are sleeping, she usually has it. It's a 1-story house. It's an L shape. The doors are at one end of the L and the kids are at the other end. I don't know how long it took for her to get help. It was in the workday and most of our neighbors work. It's a walkable neighborhood, not in the country somewhere. I am currently in therapy. She has mocked me in the past for going to therapy and uses that as a way to invalidate my opinions. What do you know? You're just a depression case. So there is no way she will see a therapist. The police had a social worker with them who gave her a card for a therapist. Today I effed up by accidentally getting my entire apartment building evacuated because of my sourdough starter. This happened 2 days ago, not today, but I'm still dealing with the fallout. So I've been trying to get into sourdough baking since like August. Live in this older apartment building in Milwaukee, smallish place, maybe 15 units. I had this starter going that I named Gerald because I'm annoying like that. Was feeding it every day, it was doing great. Smelled like tangy yogurt or whatever it's supposed to smell like. Last week, I had to go to Madison for work, 3-day trip. I figured Gerald would be fine. People leave their starters all the time. I put him in the fridge before I left on Sunday. Got back Wednesday afternoon, and my apartment smelled weird. Not like bad weird, just like really strong fermentation smell. Opened the fridge and Gerald had exploded out of the container. There was this crusty overflow all over the shelf, and it smelled super vinegary and intense. I cleaned it up, opened some windows, whatever. Didn't think much of it, besides being annoyed I had to start over. That night around 9 p.m. I'm watching TV and I hear someone pounding on my door. It's my neighbor Ross from downstairs, absolutely freaking out, saying there's a gas leak. Says the whole stairwell smells like chemicals and he's calling 911. Before I can explain anything, there's fire trucks outside. Full evacuation. Everyone standing on the sidewalks in their pajamas while firefighters go through the building with meters trying to find the leak. Turns out the smell from my starter had gone into the vents and spread through the whole building. The vinegar fermentation smell was strong enough that multiple people thought it was a gas leak or chemical spill. Fire chief comes out and asks if anyone has any fermenting substances in their unit. I had to admit in front of like 30 neighbors that I'd accidentally fumigated the building with sourdough starter fumes. Got lectured about food storage. My landlord is pissed because the fire department visit goes on the building record. Ross won't talk to me. The lady in 3B keeps making passive-aggressive comments about some people being irresponsible whenever she sees me. I threw Gerald away. Rest in peace, buddy. You went out with a bang. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you want to see more Reddit content like this, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So I'm out of here, take care and I'll see you next time.